Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, and host of Between 2 Minutes on Orion Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Neighborhood Television. Got a lot to look at this week here on the podcast. We got our traditional football coaching talkings too this week as well. We're going to start that off. Of course, the MHA just wrapped up the spring sports season with the state championships already crowned, the districts, of course, for basketball and volleyball. I've got those on my blog at secondbay4650 at blogspot.com. But without further ado, let's talk football. We got two coaches we're talking to this week. We're going to start off with a team that's not in the OA as of yet, but they will be this winter. We got the coach of the captains of Waterford, Kettering, Coach Brian Barnes. Coach, thank you for calling in this week here on the podcast.
Absolutely, Sammy. I appreciate what you do for high school football and for all sports in Oakland County. You do a great job, so I'm pretty fired up to talk to you today.
I appreciate that. Let's look at Kettering last year. I mean, obviously, you know, you took over a team that's been really struggling. I mean, like a team that's hasn't made the playoff. I mean, like has only made the playoffs 3 times in 65 years. So talk about, you know, what brought you over to Waterford Kettering.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of layers to it when you make a big move like this. I was previously at a small Catholic school at Bishop Foley in Madison Heights, and you know, I kind of was really proud of the things we did there, but I was kind of looking around and looking for that new challenge, right? And Kettering became available, and I had heard about there are really good people here and a good district, and so that was something that I looked into and researched and decided that's something I'm going to go for. And you know, coming in, like you mentioned, the program hasn't had a ton of success in its history, and so we didn't really focus on that aspect because I think sometimes coaches we're guilty of this, Sammy. We look at everything is about the end result, and of course we're all competitors and want to win, but we got to do the things to make sure, you know, we can be successful, and that starts, you know, simply with the things that we can control, right? You know, being a good person off the field, being a good student in the classroom, making sure when we're at football and when it's time to go to football, you show up to football and give your very best, things like that. And so, you know, last year we on the surface, it's, you know, we finished 2-7, but we had the lead at halftime of 3 other games. You know, we were in position to be a playoff team toward the end of the season, and we were definitely a better team at the end of the year than we were at the beginning. And I think every coach will tell you that's your ultimate goal. Like, you want to be playing well at the end of the season. And so this year, you know, we just finished up our camp about a week ago. We had a 2-day camp last week, and, you know, we have 84 kids signed up in the program. And so whether or not, you know, they're 84 legit football kids, or they're 84 kids like, hey, you know, let's give this a try. I mean, we're doing some good things to have that amount of interest in our program. So we feel really good about that. You know, now that we're really, you know, getting into the summer.
Talk about your reaction of, you know, hearing the news that Waterford Kettering and Waterford Mott, both teams coming in the OA this winter. What was your thoughts hearing the news about you guys switching leagues?
Yeah, you know, it wasn't something that I expected, you know, taking over the program. And I have a ton of respect for the OAA and what they've done historically, and a lot of good coaches and a lot of good teams in that league. And so, you know, the LVC isn't easy, obviously, and there's a lot of good coaches and tough teams here as well. And so, not something we expected, right? But like anything, going back to it, Sammy, like we're focusing on what we can control. And so this year, you know, some people, you know, in our community have questioned and wondered, you know, well, you know, we're the smallest school in the LVC. Why aren't we in the OAA in the fall? You know, and like, we can't control that. You know, we can only control getting ready for our week 1 opponent, Walled Lake Central, and that's what we're focusing on. So, yeah, it'll be different and unique. And like I said, I know some people in the OAA, so I look forward to coaching against them, and we'll see how it goes.
When you look at Kettering, you look at the players. I mean, like, obviously, talk about some impact players that OA Nation needs to know about before the season starts.
Yeah, you know, we're pretty excited. Like, we were excited about our lower levels a year ago, and you know, one of the things that you can't you can't downplay is how important the weight room is, to a football program. And so when I got hired kind of late February, March of the previous year. And so we really hadn't we did not establish a workout program. And so, the ability for us to have a full off season of weightlifting has been so critical for us. And so I say that because our lower level guys, like we've got some pretty sizable offensive linemen that we're excited about. We do lose some skill guys that made some plays for us. Last year, we had a kid who's going to Adrian College, Caden Robinson, who had a 99-yard touchdown reception. So he's graduating, so we lose some guys there. But we return our quarterback, Gavin Robinette, who in that game threw for 5 touchdowns and close to 500 yards. Johnny Regan has been an all county or all area player since he was a sophomore, so his sophomore junior year. So he's returning, and then, like I said, like we've got some kids that are going to be 10th graders or 11th graders who are going to contribute for us, who are state finalists in track. Zane Hadid, for example, Max Findler. So we're pretty excited about the future of our program. And like I mentioned, like you can't substitute, getting stronger and being strong in the game of football. And at times you can get away with it and make plays here and there and matchups and whatnot. But like if you're not physically strong, you're going to struggle. And that was a problem for us last year. Just physically, it was hard for us to move people on the offensive line. It was hard for us to stop people. But, like I said, we're excited about where we're at this point.
Talk about your program strength. Obviously, the sub-varsities. You got your JV program there. Obviously, your middle school program at Pierce. Talk about your middle school program. Talk about the and how important the sub-varsity programs are to the high school program.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great point, and it's probably not talked about enough. Like this, one of the other things that drew me to this community is, they have, like you mentioned, Pierce Middle School and Mason Middle School. We'll occasionally get kids from there, and the youth program, the Waterford Corsairs, like historically, just tough kids that are well coached, that play hard, and they have a chip on their shoulder, and that's invaluable. And so the sub-varsity levels, in my opinion, like that has to be, it's like the minor league system for Major League Baseball team or a hockey team or pro hockey team. Like guys have to get reps, and at those lower levels, like we stress, and I tell the parents at our meeting every year, like when the kids are on the lower levels, like obviously we're preparing kids. We want them to strive to win, no question. But those guys need reps as well. And so we make sure those guys get a ton of reps and game reps. And so with the transition and how high school football has kind of gone the last few years with somewhat dwindling numbers, but I think that's rebounding a little bit. It's hard sometimes to find other games, right? So for example, we struggled with last year, even though I made it a point to try to schedule as many as I could. If we have 9th graders that aren't ready for junior varsity football, like we still want them to get game reps. And so I would schedule some scrimmages against other schools or try to find as many 9th grade only or, JVB type games so those kids can get game reps. And like I mentioned, we had 84 kids show up at camp last week, 24 freshmen. I mean, that's just awesome. So we're extremely fired up about that.
And that's big. Obviously, you look at the OAA, obviously the importance of having like a, having the a JV, a freshman program. You look at the program, obviously. When you look at your offense, offensively, I know, defensively, what are your thought process on both sides of football?
Yeah. So, historically, if guys that have coached against me before, our version of the spread, and we do our best to tailor it to the talent that we have. And, we don't want to put kids in a position where they're not best, going to utilize their skill set. We do everything we can to try to fit that, and for example, running back wise, we might have a situation where our running back isn't a pure zone runner. He might be more of a downhill guy. So that might change us up a little bit. Like, okay, maybe we go more pistol veer, for example. So we try our best to match up our philosophy and concepts to the ability of the kids. And so our version of the spread, like I said, we've had games, in my history, where, we've run the ball for, close to 300 yards to win games. And we've, thrown for, close to 500 yards to win games. So honestly, whatever it takes to win games and find those matchups. And then, defensively, one of the things, like I mentioned, like getting stronger and sometimes but on both sides of the ball, scheme can be overrated. But one of the things defensively, regardless of your scheme, and we're like a true 4-4-2-5 team. Um, but we really emphasize getting 11 guys at the football. And I think that's something going into this summer, we really are emphasizing, and because we don't think we did a great job of that a year ago. And as a coaching staff, we need to be better. Myself, it starts with me. And so that's something you can make up for a lot simply by hustling to the football, being physical. If a guy's going to catch a pass, make him feel it and make him earn it, let him know that you're going to be there all game. And so that's kind of our mindset there, and playing fast and playing up tempo as much as we can and do our best to wear out our opponent.
Let's talk about now. Let's go to the schedule. Obviously, I want to talk to you about the rivalry in Waterford. Of course, you guys have an in district rival in Waterford. Talk about that rivalry in your eyes with you guys in Waterford.
Yeah, it's important to people in the community, and I had a ton of respect for Coach Farr and what he did at Mott, and he and I had touched base over the years, even before I got to Kettering, and so always respected him and the things that he's done there, and now Coach Say, who's coming over as an assistant coach from Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I mean, they're going to keep doing their thing and keep rolling because he's a good young guy and he does a good job, and so yeah, it's sometimes like any rivalry you in high school sports, like sometimes it could cross a line. It's my goal. One of the things is like you can respect your opponent and still want to beat the heck out of them. And that's kind of my mindset. And yeah, it's going to be a good football game. That's week 9, and a lot of times your team is different week 9 than you are week 1, and so, we stress to our guys like, hey, we got a full season ahead of that. Don't worry too much about that just yet, and it'll come when it comes. And yeah, but we look forward to it. It was a fun game a year ago. We were close, had a lead in the fourth quarter and couldn't finish, and that's part of the development of building a program is being able to finish those games, and what does it take to win those close games, and we're hoping to take that next step.
Talk about that trophy you guys have. I mean, obviously, I know it's like I know historically Waterford, Kettering, Waterford, Mott, they battle about the Beef Bowl and all that. So talk about the trophy that you guys battle for every year.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, it's always something it's really something when I got here, the parents and the kids are excited about, and they talk about a lot. And the coaches, I talked about it with Coach Farr a little bit. And yeah, it's something like anytime you can play for something like that, it's meaningful. And sometimes, at the end of the day, there's more to life than football, Sammy, and there's more to life than high school football. But it does mean something. It means a lot to a lot of people. And I don't take that lightly, and we don't take that lightly. And we do our best to make this district and this community proud with what we do on the field and in the classroom and off the field as well. So it's a lot of fun.
Let's break down the schedule here. Obviously, you open up the year week 1 against Walled Lake Central. Last season, I think you guys beat them last year. So talk about that first game week 1 going up against a very good Walled Lake Central program in the Vikings.
For sure, and they're very similar to us in that Coach Penrod, he's going into his second year of his tenure as a head coach there, and even though he had been in the program before, but very similar. I'm sure he's feeling the same things that we do, right? Like you get a full off season and guys working out and buying into your vision a little bit, and so every year and truthfully every week, it's a different season, and so we know that they'll be as prepared or more prepared than they played us a year ago. And we feel the same way. And they also hired, a really good friend of mine, Jeff Glenn, who's
I know him very well.
Yeah, great guy. So he's going to run their offense, and his offense has historically been very good. So we'll have our work cut out for us. And so yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, we're looking forward to it. And the one cool thing about week 1, and I'm sure those guys feel the same way, it's an opportunity to potentially get a jump on your opponent without, they're not going to have a lot of film. We won't have a lot of film of them, just our scrimmage. And I'm not the type of guy, and our staff's not the type of guy, like we're not going to go watch their 7-on-7s or anything like that. I don't believe in that. So yeah, it should be fun. I mean, it's gonna be a fun game, and a lot of times those week one games, especially like I think both teams are replacing some guys, like I mentioned, and so a lot of times week one it's goes back to the fundamentals. It's not going to be the perfect play that's called that's going to win a game. It's going to be blocking and tackling, and the team that does that the best will be successful.
Let's also break down the rest of the league. Obviously, you guys. So I'm gonna give you like a team. You know what I mean, and give me your thought process on that team. So we're gonna go from Walled Lake Central. Let's talk about Walled Lake Northern. A team that a lot of people, Walled Lake Northern has been a very interesting team to keep an eye on. So, what's your thoughts on the Knights?
They definitely have some talented kids, and they have some pieces, and they were close a year ago. And I know they're going through a coaching transition as well, with Coach Baruzzi now, who had coached in the Walled Lake area previously. So they'll be unique and different. And like I said, I think they've got talented kids, and that was a tough game for us a year ago. And so we played them later in the year as well. And it'll be interesting to see how what their scheme looks like. We're kind of curious because I don't have a lot of history or experience with Coach Peruzzi. But yeah, like I mentioned, like they were tough. I thought they were well coached a year ago, and it was a good football game. So I don't expect anything to be any different this year.
Okay, now what about former Farmington coach Corey Throach over at Walled Lake Western?
Yeah, Corey's a good friend of mine. He does an awesome job, and he's got it going on. And I think sometimes on the outside world, outside of coaching, I should say, people look at Walled Lake Western and look at Corey and say, "Oh, well, what do you expect?" They quote unquote, have everything going on. But like, I don't think that's fair. He's done pretty awesome, and he's taken his team. He's gotten really close the last couple of years, and he does a fantastic job. And he'll do the same thing again this year. And I fully expect him to make a run in the state playoffs again, because that's our expectation.
Let's go to South Lyon now. South Lyon, the Lions.
Yeah, they were awesome. Had a really good quarterback. We see them week 2 this year. Last year they got us at home, and we were coming off the big win against Central. And so, not that we necessarily you like to say it wasn't a letdown, but anytime you have a big win like we had the week before, guys still learning how to win and bring it consistently every week was a challenge. And fantastic job, fantastic scheme, well coached. And we get them week 2 this year. So tough early part of the schedule.
You got to go on the road though. It's not going to be an easy trip down there.
No, gosh, it's not. And that's one thing I've learned out here, because I'm generally not from this area. And so the bus rides on away games are, other than Mott, our crosstown rival, they're not short bus rides. So yeah, and the bus ride is always, coaches will tell you this, Sammy, they're challenging, because you sit on a bus and you're hyped up all game day in school, and then you get on a bus and you sit and you kind of wait, and if it's a warm day, you're sitting, it's really warm. It's definitely a challenge, man. Definitely a challenge.
I've had that experience, being a former football player myself. Sometimes you get that energy or get that motivation, and then all of a sudden, go like, oh boy, just wait till game time.
Right. Yes, I do. And it's like, it's hard. I mean, and coaches, unfortunately, you fight it, but innately, like kids are going to be flat, and that's hard to overcome sometimes. But, you recognize that, try to tell the kids, hey, it's a long game, fight this early, they're going to be emotionally hyped up. You got to fight through that and just keep going.
All right, now let's talk South Lyon East. Obviously, we talked about South Lyon. Now talk about the Cougars a little bit here.
Yeah, that was a game. Like those guys coached Top does a good job, man. We had the lead at them at halftime. I think we were up 8-0, and then they're well coached. They made some adjustments, and our depth wasn't where it needed to be a year ago, and a couple of mistakes here and there, and they got on us pretty good. But yeah. Awesome job. I think they're replacing some guys as well. I like their uniforms. I have a color scheme. Reminds me of the Raiders is pretty cool. But yeah, they do really well.
We will talk uniforms in a couple minutes here, so I just want to get your thoughts on that. But let's keep on. We got the Huron Valley schools to talk about. Let's start off with Lakeland. Obviously, Lakeland was a playoff team last year, ran the Farmington. So what was your thoughts on the Eagles?
Awesome quarterback. They do lose their all area running back. He was really good, but they returned some guys, and their scheme is tough to defend. They're very multiple on offense. some unbalanced formations, a lot of motion. And that gave us some trouble because, again, like when you're learning a new system and on both sides of the ball, but especially defensively, like we're trying to keep it as simple as possible for our guys. And they were coming at us and, doing some different things that caused problems. But again, also a physical team. Like we really struggled running the ball against those guys. So in the first half, we threw the ball pretty well against them, and they're well coached. So they made some adjustments at halftime that gave us trouble in the second half. So and that game will be away for us as well. And that's a stadium I like. I like going there. I've seen a game there; it's pretty cool. So that should be fun.
And then Milford. I mean, like I've been in the Milford Stadium. It's a really nice stadium. Talk about having to go against the Mavericks.
Awesome. Great. Their scheme, Coach Mikovich is awesome. And defensively, like they do an awesome job at the way they coach their defense. And, they play a 3 down front and, drop 8 into coverage and they'll blitz occasionally. But like those guys fly to the ball. And, we got a couple big plays on them in the first half, but that was really it. We couldn't sustain anything consistently, man. And well-coached team. I mean, I keep saying that and it's not hyperbole though, just fantastic coaches in this league.
And then we got 2 more teams here. Obviously, your non-league game against Livonia Clarence, so we're going to break that one down. But we already talked about this earlier, but Waterford.
Yep. Again, like when we played them last year, they weren't 100% healthy. I don't think they had some guys out that are returning this year. Their quarterback is back, who's committed to Central Michigan. Their big tight end is back, who's committed to Charlotte. I mean, those guys, they're going to be good and they're going to be ready to go. And that's a game they're going to want to win. And Coach Say is going to want to put his stamp on his first year there. So that's fun. And it was played on Saturday. We're going to play them on a Saturday again this year at our place. And it's really neat. Both schools, the bands come out, the community comes out. It's a really cool experience. And it'll be interesting to see what their scheme is. But that's what makes it fun, man.
And then your non-conference game, of course, in the Lakes Valley, you guys play 8 conference games, 1 non-league game. You guys got Livonia Clarenceville on the schedule. So how did that one come up?
Yeah, a little bit different. Like it was, last year, like right when I got hired, we were kind of
Orchard Lake, St. Mary's.
Yeah, right. Like it was, not your ideal homecoming opponent, but it was good for our kids to play that kind of competition though, too, to be honest with you. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it was neat that they could see, and we talked about that, like, hey, you want to get to anywhere near that level, here's the expectation is what we need to do, especially in the off season. So yeah, but no, this year just came about. They were needing a game and we were needing a game. And I don't have much history with those guys that are current staff. I've coached against them before. Clarenceville. So yeah, they're the Clarenceville Trojans. They got cool uniforms, red and black, and that'll be a fun one.
And then get to go on that bus ride down to Livonia. I know that's not going to be a fun trip, especially going down.
Well, thankfully they're coming to us.
Oh, I apologize.
So yeah, no, that's all right. No, thankfully they're coming to us because I agree. I agree. Wouldn't have been fun.
Let's talk about the jerseys. Actually, your uniform history. Obviously, I've known Waterford Kettering. Green and white, obviously. They had the lightning bolt on their uniform. So talk about the jerseys in your mind with Waterford Kettering.
I like the color green where we've transitioned to in our helmets as well. The forest green look. It's a little bit cleaner, I think, than pure, like, Michigan State colors. So I'm a fan of that. I've got some guys on my staff that are really into the uniform thing. And we had talked about potentially like our helmets being a little bit different. So, I mean, I like it. We tried to last year. We brought out black pants for a game to have the black pants on green. We thought it looked really cool. So maybe we'll go more green on green consistently, like that color. I'm a big fan of. So if you remember this, Sammy, like I love watching Texas. The Texas Longhorns. They're a away jersey. They're white on white.
Yeah, white on white. Oh, I love those.
That is my favorite jersey combination. And so, we might break that out a little bit more for away games. So, but I do like this color green. I do like a color green. We're rocking more of the forest, like metallic look. Yep.
I think, I look at your uniform design. I really love the white on white because, I think that look is basically you guys. Because when you're at home, you go green on green, green on black. that is a good look. You know what I mean? And then go white on white on the road. I think that'll be a really good look, especially with the green helmet. You know what I mean? That matches up really, really well for you guys.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, our first away game, so week one, we'll make sure we're white on white just for you, and I'll send you a picture.
Ooh, I appreciate that. That'll be good. You know what I mean? We guys go out the Walled Lake. You know what I mean? Going up against the Vikings, and I know they're gonna be wearing their blue and yellow look, and then that should be really interesting. Talk about the community aspect of things. I mean, how important the community's been in supporting you guys.
Extremely passionate, and it's one thing I appreciate. Sometimes, I've had conversations with some parents, especially, and they can go, I don't want to say overboard, because like I'm a parent of high school athletes as well, and when you're passionate about your kid and you're passionate about the program, sometimes you're gonna be vocal and, like I said, not cross the line necessarily, but maybe go too much. But like I want that. It's better to have a passionate community than a community that is apathetic. And so one of the things that I keep telling people when they ask me about my experience is like, there are people here, I want to give them, not just me, because, my staff, like we're all in this together, but I really want to give them an opportunity to play in a playoff game, or to feel that feeling, being proud of your football program. And coach, play in a playoff game and have a playoff party at the end of, the week 9 season, where we're going to see who we're playing week 1. Like that ultimately is my goal, because there are good people here. There are good kids here who are working really hard, and they deserve that.
What are some of the traditions at Kettering when you look at on a game day? What are some of the traditions that, OA Nation needs to know about when they come to Kettering?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, we've got a pretty passionate, student body, which is pretty cool. Like they still show up to all the home games, which is really neat. Like that didn't go away. I was kind of surprised at that, which was really cool. Other than that, just come ready. It's going to be loud. Like when you see us play, it's loud when you come, to Kettering, and we play a fun brand of football, and it's going to be high, up tempo, high pace, a lot of fun, really loud. That's the way we do it. And yeah, just come ready to, strap in and see a good game.
Before I let you go, Coach, what is your expectations this year at Waterford Kettering this season? Obviously, playoffs is one of them. What is your expectations this year?
Yeah, I'm going to give you some coach speak, Sammy. I mean, obviously
Good. I'm willing to take it.
Okay. We, like every coach who talks to you, they're going to tell you like they want to be a playoff team and a playoff program consistently. No doubt. We want to reach our ceiling, whatever that is. I think our ceiling potentially is a playoff team this year. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We want to be a better team at the end of the year than we are in the beginning, and we fully expect that to happen. We're about to have our first real heavy, like last year we had camp, and literally in the next 45 minutes, we're going to have our first heavy team, workout, and I can't wait to see our guys get after it. And like I said, we're night and day ahead of where we were this time a year ago, and that gets us pretty excited. So our goal is to play meaningful games at the end of the season that have playoff implications, and I fully expect that to happen.
Okay, Waterford Kettering coach Brian Barnes, thank you for calling in this week here on the podcast. Wish you guys the best of luck, and I'm curious to see if you guys will be at Media Day for the OAA, because I know you'll be at the Lakes Valley Media Day, but I'm curious to see if you guys will be there.
Haven't heard anything yet, man. That would be awesome, Sammy. Again, I appreciate what you do for high school football and high school sports in this area, buddy. Keep up the good work, all right?
Thank you very much, Coach. You take care now.
Yep. Thank you. You too.
Yep. Okay, that was Waterford Kettering coach Brian Barnes here on the podcast here. When you look at Kettering this year, my thoughts on them, I'm telling you, I think they can be a playoff team. I really studied the schedule, did a lot of analytics. Be curious to see how this team goes this year. Be very, very curious. I think they're going to be a good team. I really, really do. I will have them on the blog for the football preview. Obviously, them and Waterford Mott. So of course, we will have the interview with Coach Barnes. It'll be on the football preview site as well. So. So we'll see how things go, and and I think it'll be a good year. I think for Waterford Kettering, I think they're gonna have a really, really good team this year. I think they're gonna surprise some people in the Lakes Valley Conference. So we'll see what happens. All right, everybody, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk to West Bloomfield coach Jack Kilberts, talk about the state of the Lakers here on OAA Now. Welcome back to OAA Now here. I'm Sammy Termina here. We got the coach of the Lakers, Coach Jack Kilberts. Coach, thank you for calling in this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be with you guys.
When you look at, let's recap West Bloomfield's year last year. It was a very un-Laker-like year. 1-3 in the red last year. Just kind of very unusual.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Like, we weren't happy, I guess, with a lot of our results. And, football's tough and it can be weird in a lot of ways. All those OAA games we led at some point, and we found ways to, some teams, like, if they do things the right way, find ways to win games in clutch moments. We kind of were the opposite. And that was a little disappointing and frustrating, but, we think we've kind of grown from it and learned from it. And we think we're a little bit more resilient because of that.
Of course, last year you guys made the playoffs. You knocked out. You had to go on the road. Obviously that's very, very unusual for you guys. Going on the road for the playoffs. But talk about that experience having to go through Novi and then having to play Novi Detroit Catholic Central.
Yeah, two pretty good teams. Like, Novi was pretty athletic. They had a lot of speed out there. We really liked their quarterback. Thought he would give us a ton of trouble. And the kids were kind of locked in based on how the year went. And they were really, I guess, excited about the prospectus of just kind of a fresh start. So that went well for us. And CC, they were really good last year. Like, we were in the game in the second quarter, had a sack fumble that went kind of the other way. They sacked us, we fumbled, and it was a really big swinging point of the game. And it kind of gave them control right before halftime. And, they were too good to make mistakes like that last year. And we expect them to be good again, but, they had a really tremendous senior class.
When you look at you guys this year, obviously you guys, last season it was you had a 2-quarterback system last year, but now you have Jamal Shakespeare back at quarterback. So talk about how Jamal's been developing as a player.
Oh, he's a great player. I think just to label him as a quarterback is probably a disservice to him, because, he will play there. He'll take snaps again there this year, but he'll also play running back and receiver and free safety and outside backer. And his strengths definitely lie in his versatility and his physicality. And, he's really taken an ownership over kind of the offseason. Him and a handful of other guys that are returning on our team that are going to be leaders for us have really taken ownership. And he's one of those guys that have kind of really bought in and, dedicated themselves to this coming year.
Talk about, obviously some talk about some players that OA Nation needs to know about. Coming into the season. Obviously you look at West Bloomfield, they've always been known for D1 recruits, but also some under the radar players that have really caught your eye.
Yeah, we definitely we've been blessed with a lot of talent in the past, and we were talented again last year, and talent is nice and it's very helpful, obviously, but it's not the only thing that determines wins and losses, as I think that last year showed in a lot of ways. You got to go out there and do things the right way, because the sport will humble you really quickly if you don't. But yeah, we're blessed to still have some of those guys on the offensive defensive line with Travis Robinson, Jeremiah Benson, and Jamal that you mentioned, and Will Espy all have Division I potential. And to be honest, we got some other guys that have really kind of did their time and kind of waited in the wings behind some guys that were 3- and 4-year varsity players, and they're really eager to get going. So, we think guys like Malcolm Gibson and Obi Duru have done things the right way and kind of waited their turn, and they're kind of ready to explode as just weapons on offense and defense.
And when you look at West Bloomfield, last season, you kind of I remember that the defense had some issues a little bit last year, obviously giving up a ton of points. I know the Lake Orion game, the Roseville game basically were the two that, that when I look at the defense. So, what was the, obviously last year the defense was kind of a struggle for you guys. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was definitely, by the end of the year, it got pretty tough. We were really, really banged up and really injured. That happens in this sport. It's obviously a really violent game. But we had some kids that were playing through a lot of stuff. We had two starting defensive linemen. One of them just had surgery this morning, played the entire year with a torn meniscus, Kamari Pittman. Happened in the fourth quarter against Adams, which, early in the year, it's a tie game with the team that ended up going to the semifinals. So we thought when we were healthy, we proved that we could play with really good teams. We didn't, unfortunately, last year beat a lot of very good teams. So playing with them's nice, but you got to get the job done and win eventually. But so he was really dinged up, played the entire year. Jeremiah Benson had a high ankle sprain that he could barely walk on. So by the end of the year, he couldn't practice until the walkthrough day, just because he was just getting treatment and listening to the game plan. And like when you lose guys in the trenches like that, you rotate things around to get more guys in the field, but we became thinner on both sides of the ball. And it definitely hurt. Like Vegas Say was a middle linebacker. He had a knee issue on kickoff coverage week 1 against Chippewa Valley, and he's had to sit out week 2 against Grove. So we were, without our top 3 middle linebackers for a game against, I don't know, maybe the most talented Groves team in a decade. And, it just kind of snowballed the entire year. And, that's going to happen. Like, we're not the only team that have guys that get hurt. I think Rochester Adams is a great example. They made it to the state semifinals with backup quarterbacks.
I remember the injury. I remember that injury that happened in the Lake Orion game, and I was like, I remember
that's right, yeah.
And that was like, and I remember I texted the voice of the Dragons, Doug Corliss, the injury, and that was like, that was shocking. I mean, like, that game was really shocking though. But when you look at injuries, obviously, they're part of the game, and obviously, you're playing in one of the most vicious divisions in the state, which is the OA Red. And talk about how, playing in a division like that's going to gear you up, especially for the postseason, especially last year with all 5 teams, including you guys, making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year we were a beneficiary of the revised playoff format from whatever 3, 4, 5 years ago, really emphasizing the strength of schedule, which is what gave us a chance to extend our season. But no, the league, we say it every year at the media day in early August, it's just an absolute grind, and it does prepare you for the playoffs or games outside of your conference. And it's not just the quality of the opponents, it's the quality of the coaching and the game planning we get every single week. The in-game adjustments that those guys make, regardless of who you're playing, like they can really, it challenges you and it forces you to be at your best. And, when you have that kind of mentality week after week after week, and then with us that are, it seems like we're always playing Groves in our white crossover. I mean, they're right there in terms of caliber of opponent every single year too. So it definitely, makes sure you're ready, gives you a chance, at least a fighter's chance, if you make the playoffs to make a run. And I think that's evidenced if you look at the last, I don't know, however many years, there's been an OAA red team making a run into the playoffs.
And when you look at the strength of the division, obviously, I always ask you guys your thought process of each team in the division, and then we'll break down the non-conference. So we're gonna start off with your eyes. We're gonna start off with Adams, of course. Adams, the team that went to state semifinals a year ago. What's your thought process on Rochester Adams?
I mean, Adams is like a down year for Adams means that they're awesome, and they're not down very often. Like that last year, I know they had some really good seniors, like their fullback and middle linebacker that was a stud, some really good linemen, but like they might have the best returning player in the league, and they're not going to be. I just don't buy into the idea that I've heard from some people that without their fullback and middle linebacker and some of those linemen that they're going to be down, because I just don't see them down ever. They're too well coached. They have too many tough physical kids that play multiple positions. They buy into their defensive scheme. You can tell they believe in it. They fly around and they wreak havoc. And I expect honestly the team and the quarterback to have a chip on their shoulder because of what they knew they were so close to last year, largely without it.
And that's going to be interesting. Obviously, you look at Adams. I know that senior class very well, and that senior class is going to be very, very good. You know what I mean? So when you look at that,
totally.
Let's talk Clarkston. I mean, like, obviously, when you look at the Wolves, I mean, like, they got a very good offense coming back. But what's your thought process when you see Coach Justin Pintar's team in the Wolves?
Really, really athletic, I think, this year. A lot of good skill players, but that play both sides of the ball. Really good team athleticism. And when you think about Clarkson, Pintar does such a really good job with their line play that I know that their line play will be good. And when they pose so many threats with all the athletes on the edges that, that I think they're primed to explode, and yeah, we're taking it really, really seriously.
Oxford.
We'll see. Obviously, Coach Line and those guys did such an awesome job last year with a great senior class and just running through the league and really kept us off balance the entire game, offensively speaking. And, he's moved on. A lot of those guys have, but they hired within. And I think their defensive game planning last year was top notch. And with that guy in charge now, I think, I expect more of the same.
Yeah, Coach.
Another returning quarterback. So I think everyone except for, West Bloomfield and Lake Orion's bringing their guy back from last year, which, makes your life a lot easier in a lot of ways.
And obviously the new coach there is Trevor Potts. He, of course, was defensive coordinator at Oxford last year, so that's going to be very interesting what schemes he's going to bring over there, obviously. And then Orion. What's your thoughts on Orion?
So, I think Tristan Hill was, really, really good, was a dynamic player in a lot of ways, and he'll be tough, doing the same stuff without him. But Coach Bell knows how to coach offense, and they'll look a little bit different and cater to the strengths of the guys that they have. And I know the offense and defensive line are just loaded and huge and strong. Always big, strong, physical kids. And when you have really good line play, you can do a lot of stuff. So we're really kind of anxious and eager to see, the identity of Lake Orion this year and, the guys that they have, in the wings that are going to step up and take that challenge. Because honestly, we really liked their receiving core last year too. Like really good group of receivers, gave us a lot of trouble.
And then let's look at your non-league. I think you open up the year with Fortson this year. Is it?
Fortson, yeah.
And obviously, you know what Fortson likes to do. Talk about your thought you scrimmaged Fortson, I think, last year. So talk about, going up against a team that you're familiar with.
So, yeah, it might be the last 8 to 10 years, I would say, we've gone down and scrimmaged Fortson, and we know kind of the physicality and the mentality that they play with every year. It's a new coach, though, that we don't know much about the background of, at least yet. So we're kind of going in blind in a lot of ways. And, it's frustrating in some ways, but in some ways it's refreshing because you can just focus on yourself and not over game plan because you can't really. So you really focus on your identity and doing little things right and being able to adjust to whatever you see that week. Because they're going to have big, strong kids, athletic kids, because they always have them. But in terms of scheme, we're kind of waiting to see in mid-August, to be honest.
And you know what's going to be hard, especially because when I talked to Coach Barnes earlier, of Waterford Kettering earlier, we talked about, especially a week one opponent where you're not very familiar with and you don't have a lot of film and you're relying a lot on 7-on-7 and then your scrimmage stuff. It has to be a challenge for you to just, to see that, that sometimes coaches could when they do the scrimmages, they don't really put their best plays in for you. And then when you get them week one, they just do something out of the blue against you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It definitely can happen. The advantage you have when you have the ball, I would say, is you're obviously in control of where you line up and what you do and when you snap it. I think defensively, and obviously you don't know what fronts they're going to be in, but you have a little bit of control when you have the ball. Defensively, because it's such a reactionary, I guess, position or to have your kids in, is when you don't know what's coming. For week one, we have to do a lot more base defense that we can't have a specialized game plan to this formation or this look or this player because we don't know where they're going to be or what they're going to do at all. So it kind of forced you to be maybe a little bit more vanilla, but that's also what I meant by you can also really focus on yourself. And when you're vanilla, just do it really, really well and don't make mistakes.
And then, of course, let's break down. I think you guys got Groves in the schedule this year. Obviously, Groves had a really good team last year. still can't figure out that Orchard Lake St. Mary's game with them. But talk
Yeah,
about.
I ran the clock that game. It was hosted at West Bloomfield. It was a great game. They had a lot of chances to win it. I know they're probably kicking themselves over it. They were a really, really good team last year.
I mean, like, I'm still trying to figure out their play calling in that game. No offense, you know what I mean. Still trying to figure that out. But when you
Yeah.
look at going against Groves, I mean, different team, new coaching staff. I mean, I'm sorry, not think of it, not new coaching staff, but different team. So,
Yeah.
what's your thought process with having to take on Groves? I think you got them week 2, I believe.
It's 2 or 3. It's pretty. Or it was 2. The last couple of years, it was 2. You know what? I take that back. We play Southfield 2. I think we play Groves week 5.
Okay, yeah, because I want to
It's
talk
been
Groves.
week 2 for a while.
Yeah, I want to talk Groves first when we break down Southfield because but there's also one game I'm looking forward to. There's 2 more, Bloomfield Hills and then also Roseville, that we got to break those games down. So, what's your thought process on Groves playing them? It's a totally different new team over there.
Yeah, it probably will be. Because I mean, I think they would, if Coach Flaherty was here with us, he'd tell you that it was one of the more talented and athletic teams they've had, and that doesn't take anything away from obviously one of the best linemen we've had in the state of Michigan. I don't know, in the 15 years I've been paying attention to it. And it wasn't just him; they were pretty strong across the line. So great senior class, but you know. Coach Flaherty's been at Groves coaching so long that I played against him when I was at West Bloomfield, and kind of like with Adams, they don't fall off. Like the way he's like built that program, like they're tough, they're physical, they are who they are. They're gonna run power, they're gonna run counter, they're gonna run stretch. They have a great play action game off of it. Um, they're not going to make mistakes defensively. They're going to be in their spots, run their scheme. So I mean, they're tough to beat when they're talented. They're tough to beat when they have a good senior class to leave. So like, you know, if you look at the recruiting sites, it might look like a different team, but when we go out there week 5 to play them, it'll feel the same.
That'll be a really interesting game. It always has been between you two. I mean, the 2 teams. I mean, like it'll be a very interesting game. Let's talk A&T. I mean, obviously A&T had a really rough year last year, really down year. What's your thought process when you see A&T?
Well, yeah, you kind of hit it. I know Coach McKenzie got there kind of late in the offseason, had a really young team, and it showed on the field in a lot of ways. And when that happens and you go through growing pains, there's usually a pretty big jump the next year because all those kids that went through that growing process, like they're a year older and they've been through it. So they're going to be, a little bit more experienced, probably a little bit more confident, and a little bit. He had a whole offseason together now, as opposed to he was probably getting this job in maybe May last year, if I remember right. So yeah, they got a lot stronger foundation than they did a year ago, and we expect them to be a more experienced and confident team.
And then we talk about Bloomfield Hills. I mean, that is, I think the rivalry between you guys and Bloomfield Hills, I know it's been pretty one-sided as of late, but I know it gets the community excited playing on Bloomfield Hills. Talk about having to play the Blackhawks week 8 for you guys.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've played them, to be honest. I know, like, we haven't played them a ton, but the last time I really remember playing them, I mean, they took one off of us in 2017 when we beat them again in the playoffs. But they beat us week 2 when they had John Paddock at quarterback and a really good wide receiver. I forget his name, but I think he went to Grand Valley. He was really good. So it's been a while, yeah, but it's like right down the street. Like if you go to the back corner of our school and look at the houses out of room 601, that's Bloomfield Hills School District for some reason. So I mean, like it's close. It's right there, and it'll be kind of a nice emotional week to really get them back on the schedule and be excited to see what Coach Merchant does with those guys and how it looks different. To be honest, I'm glad we play them week 8 because I haven't paid too much attention to them the last couple of years because we haven't had to play them. So I don't really know too much about, the team and where the program's been, but hopefully by, week 8, we got a little bit of an understanding of who they are, what their identity is, and, how we got to play them.
What was your thoughts about Scott Merchant taking over the job at Bloomfield Hills?
I mean, I was a little surprised because of, I guess I didn't hear any rumors or anything about it. It kind of came out of the blue, but I know his kids go there, and he lives like right in the area, either in West Bloomfield or Bloomfield Hills. He's kind of a local guy, so like there's a lot of things that make sense, and obviously his track record of success while he was at Chip Valley and UAD and the other places that he's been. He's going to carry that with him and probably instill that with the kids and the staff. And, I'm kind of excited for him because it'll be good to see him again and compete against him again.
And then week 9, you get Roseville in the Swamp. Obviously, last year you had a classic down there. Went, I think, triple overtime. What's your thoughts about having to play the Panthers week 9?
Well, I know the kids are really excited about that one. I mean, that game really swung back and forth quite a bit. It was probably a lot of fun for fans or people there watching it. It was not a lot of fun for us, and we almost found a way to pull it out. And they made a couple incredible plays at the end, and I think it was double overtime. It could have been triple.
Double overtime, I think. Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, but no, I mean it was right there. They went for 2 at the end, won the game, and I'm sure they could say the same thing. But there's so many little things we done differently. Like we probably feel like we could have won that game 3 or 4 or 5 different times, but we didn't. So I think they're really eager to kind of compete against them again. It should be a good, even matchup athletically and physically. And, we just hope we come out better this time than we did last year.
How important is going to have that game in the Swamp going to be for you guys? Because you had to go down to Roseville, and obviously that's not an easy trip. I mean, like, going out there, you know what I mean? Going down to near Gratiot, you know what I mean? So that's not an easy trip.
No, it's a long way. It's a long little haul. Yeah, we're definitely glad to have that at home. Kind of a home-loaded schedule this year. So I don't know, like the last couple of years, we've only had 3 home games on the schedule each year. So it's it kind of flipped on us, and now we have 6. And it's like honestly, I'd rather just have a little bit more balance and do 4 or 5 every year. But we're gonna play who we play and what's in front of us. And like I said, I'm glad that they're the ones taking the long bus ride this time, though.
Talk about the community of West Bloomfield. Obviously, how important is the community to the West Bloomfield football program and the entire West Bloomfield athletic department?
Oh, it's huge, man. Like the school district and all has been great in their support, down from the elementaries to the middle school on up, and the greater community too, because it's a special place. It's incredibly diverse, all people from different faiths and walks of life, and it's reflective on our team and in our school. So I don't know, when you kind of have something to rally behind, like the teamship that football can bring you, it could be kind of nice. It's a unifying effect if you do it the right way, and we at least like to think that we try to do it that way.
Let's talk about program strength. Obviously, the JV level, the sub-varsity levels, and the middle school levels. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the middle school's kind of been, it's been, kind of ever changing. Our middle schools combined a few years ago, and we still have a middle school program, but about half the kids in the middle school are playing like youth football. So it's really like we coach middle school basketball with those guys to try to meet them at a young age and, build relationships as early as we can with the kids in our district. And it's been beneficial for us. We've been really lucky with some talented kids in our program, obviously. The younger levels, last year we thought we were really excited about our JV team, and our quarterback broke his collarbone week 3 against Rochester Adams. Kind of a fluke thing, not a lot of contact, just got tripped up, fell on his shoulder the wrong way, and it snapped. And that changed their season quite a bit. There's usually not too much quarterback depth on the lower levels, believe it or not, and kind of changed the way they had to play. But Jackson, he's up with us now in varsity. He looks really good. He's going to play a lot, and he's kind of eager to show everybody what he can do because he really hasn't had that opportunity yet.
And then let's look at obviously the jerseys, the uniform designs. I've always been a uniform critic here. Of course, you guys look like Alabama. You know what I mean? I call West Bloomfield when it comes to the helmet look. You guys look exactly like Alabama. I mean, like any changes in the uniforms?
White Alabama.
I mean, you look at the uniform. I mean, the uniform. I mean, like when you guys went to the Alabama look, I really loved the look. The only thing I didn't like was the white helmet look. I mean, like, come on. Any changes to any paint jobs in the future with the helmets?
I've taken some suggestions at least, and we looked at a couple concepts, and we ended up exactly where we have been maybe the last however many years. Gosh, I think the last team that wore green would have been Obi Jackson, so Jackson's brothers,
Yes.
freshman or sophomore year when he was on varsity. So it was probably 2012, 2013, something like that was the last time.
When you guys went to the white helmet, I basically almost cried because, like, I'm going like, why? You know what I mean? Like, sort of like, you know what I mean? Going like, if you ever look at Tom Grossi's, I know he's a YouTuber.
Yeah.
He, I know he does some things like some crazy things. I know he's a big Green Bay Packers fan. So when he when a free agent signs, like, he does like a fan reaction feeling, like he usually goes in the parking lot and just screams at the heavens. You know what I mean? So basically, that's basically me with you guys wearing white helmets. That's basically me. Kind of like, ah!
Well, we like to think at least that it goes with all three of our jerseys. And when we go on the road, we got the white helmets, white jersey, white pants. We think it's a nice, clean look. So I'm happy to tell you that when we play at Lake Orion this year, we do have brand new white away jerseys, and I'm anxious to see what you think about them. And I don't know, man. I might not even bring them to media day, so it's this total surprise to you.
Oh, you're gonna do that to me? Oh my goodness gracious!
I say that as a joke, but I know I'm gonna want to hear your critique, so maybe I'll have the kids bring them.
Ooh, that should be good. Yeah. Their media day. You know what I mean? I'm looking forward to that. Now I'm looking forward to that.
I'm good.
Before I let you go, Coach, what is your expectations this year?
Like all we ask our guys is just to compete every day. Like that was our message when we started our summer workouts last week. It's like, hey, you guys say you want this year to be different. And yeah, I think we all do in terms of results, but saying it's not going to do anything, right? Because talk's kind of cheap. Doesn't get you anywhere. So it's our job to compete every day through the summer and really earn the chance to be a better team, get the results that we want. It's like I said, we were close last year. Every single game last year, we were leading at some point, except for Detroit Catholic Central. And to know that you can be in these games and like a lot of times in the second half, and we just got to finish the job. And it's a grueling schedule. Like obviously the goal, is if you're perfect, you're 9-0, it'd be great, but that's really, really, really hard to do. So I don't like to even, put the focus there. Our focus right now is competing through our workouts. And then when August starts, we get to put some pads on, trying to rebuild our identity of physicality and show these teams that, last year was a blip on the radar.
West Bloomfield coach Zach Hilber is here. Thank you for joining us here this week on the podcast, talking about the Lakers heading into the year.
I appreciate you, man. It's always good to talk to you guys. And I know that means we're one step closer to playing football. And I don't know who's not excited about that.
I know. Thank you really much, Coach. Take care and God bless you.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
So when I look at the Lakers season this year, I think they could be a team that could be in for the bounce back. I think they could be a really dangerous team that could bounce back, having a big year. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes with West Bloomfield. So one final thought here. Obviously, we had a girls soccer team in the postseason in Troy, Athens. Ended up falling 1-0 to Celine. Difference was Celine scored a goal with about 15 minutes to go in the game. So that was ended up being the difference. So no state champions in baseball, softball, or girls soccer this year. So we'll see what happens going forward. We're going to sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog at Saturday for this 4650 at blogspot.com. For the latest information around the OAA. We're gonna talk to 3 new coaches next week here on the podcast, and then 3 new coaches on in 2 weeks. And also want to take a look at the districts. Of course, they're on the blog at Saturday for this 50 at blogspot.com for the latest information around the OAA. All right, I'm gonna sign off here. Take care, God bless, and I will see you all next week. Everybody, take care, God bless, and I will see you all next week.